Horde, rejoice! It is I, the Socrates of RPGs, your main man and chieftain of the Barbarian Horde, here to enlighten your mind with currently what we've been doing on the RPG tip. Baby girl, you understand? Now we're going to tell you just a couple of things here. Woo! Daddy, if you're gonna stay with us. And what we're doing, what I've been doing here, oh gosh, I don't know, several months now, where we're in, maybe 4 months into a game that we've been playing, and I've been using basically a Dungeons and Dragons game I put together. Some new players, an old returning player. My son's playing, of course. He's really gotten into RPGs. I'll talk about that in a little bit. More upcoming. He is probably just about as into it at his age as I was at my age, which is saying extraordinarily into it. We went to a convention before COVID. Unfortunately, with COVID, we weren't able to go back to the local convention this time around. But hopefully by next year that'll be straightened away. So basically, what we're doing is we're going to be using stuff out of here and stuff out of here. And I apologize for the lighting situation. I just tried to jury this up on a last spur of the moment, and everywhere was either too bright or too dark, and voila, this is what you shall have. So we're kind of doing a little Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, Second Edition, AD&D stuff. It all kind of run together. First Edition, Second Edition, I always ran those as one kind of deal, and then the 3.5. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about what we're doing there. Very much as you look at that and go, oh, that must be a lot, but a very much simplified rule set. I ripped out a lot of things. There's a lot of cumbersome, unnecessary things. They kind of bog it down, make it harder to explain to a newer player, make it harder to get them. I don't want people interacting so much with stats. I want people interacting more with the concept, with the feel, with the feeling, with the form of that character that put together, not dealing so much bogged down with the function. So I think I'm going to do another video where I talk about we're going to talk about the simplicity of it. But let me sort of go into what we're doing here. I'll sort of outline the characters. So we have 5 players in the game. Some of you longtime fans will know my friend Frank. He's been in a couple of the videos. He is playing in the game. He's playing a human, basically a fighter thief human. He is someone who worked in the mines. The area that we have, let me show you else what we're having in the mix, in the brew master, you understand, in the ale house, in the witch's cauldron of imagination from the creation and this destination, baby. So definitely with some of the 3rd edition, 3.5 edition, Forgotten Realms stuff, and with the Forgotten Realms Adventure, I really like Forgotten Realms. It's a world that I know very well, and I think it lends itself very well to basic ideas from new players. It's vaguely Tolkien-esque. It's very heavily video gamed. There's so many things you can do with it, and we're playing inside the Fields of the Dead. I designed a town called Bone Rust in the Fields of the Dead. This is it's on the Sword Coast to the east of Baldur's Gate, about 4 days to the east of Baldur's Gate, by my reckoning. And that will reckon into your mind itself and journey with me in your mind as we lay down the foundation, if you understand what I'm talking about. In this area, the Fields of the Dead, there are, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, wars between the North and the South, and various different kingdoms and city-states and so forth were fought here. Were fought in these fields and these old knolls and these small coves of trees, and there are old cairns, there are burial mounds and white burrows and all these sort of things. So there's all these adventure seeds, all these adventure hooks, all these ideas of people coming around looking for things. And most of it's going to be bunk. It's going to be cons. It's going to be people not getting into what they want to get into out there in the tall grass with the weeds, with the wind coming around, with the black flies and the mosquitoes. And there's a long winding river, and way up that river, that's where Cyric murdered Baal with the blade that was mask incarnated into steel. And that steel was driven deep into the god of murder himself. And that was on the Borsky Bridge. Really something also that we've pulled in the whole Baal spawn storyline. I really like that. Forgotten Realms storylines, of course, using that. And I am very good at getting sympathy or what in a typical game would be considered bad guys, and kind of showing maybe the good guys aren't quite so good. So we're going to talk a little bit about in the campaign, in the saga, what we're doing. And you know, we're using stuff from both these editions. And of course, who could forget? Because we gonna throw some extra spice in there, which is Cauldron Bro Hostile, baby. There's definitely gonna be some appearances from some very interesting things from this game. And as we go forward, I believe I will be for the group running some Within the Ring of Fire, available now. Drive2rpg.com. Get your copies today, jabronis. This is what you want to know, everything you need to know about the RPG greatness gold to ensorcel your mind. So, bringing in these ideas, this deep immersive style of role playing, getting the people to concentrate, you know, on here. So, this is the setting, right? Bone Rust, this town that's come up. You have these northern mines that are infested with trolls. All areas infested with trolls. They're undead. There's things like that there. And then they have a southern lumbering area, you know, into the southern woods. So it's the southern woods. I want to say I positioned about 4 days travel to the south, and the northern mountains about 3 days travel to the north. So enter a character, and we. So kids like to say use face captures for all the NPCs of import and those that know. I definitely gave this a little bit of a rock opera sort of feel, a little bit of an old school Smash Mouth pro wrestling type of feel, a little bit of the dirty and the dangerous. So I used 80s lead singer from the band Skid Row, Sebastian Bach, as the mayor. I want to sort of flip that old trope on the head of some like just tired, fat, goofy-looking white dude that was old as a mug, and then you're like, nah, son, you ain't gonna mayor nothing. Why don't you mayor your ass into the street? I'm gonna take in this house. So I put this more youthful, energetic Father Alera, this man about music, but a man who's come in and owned everything, right? And he's done it old school style. He's brought in some thugs, some thugging and bugging, the men of good standing. And those men are in such good standing. That's stand good as hell. Believe that. So we have this group of these 3 other guys that watch us back, these potent individuals, and I'm not going to spoil to my players what sort of tricks and powers they might have, but watch out, because you definitely ain't ready for them yet. They are some people of extreme strength, and they have their eyes, they have their spies, they have their bitch trick work snitches on the corner and in all the areas. And the mayor, Mayor Tilton, owns so much here, and I have basically Jennifer Connelly. We sort of cast it like a movie. Jennifer Connelly's basically playing the mayor's wife, and the players haven't had very much interaction with her at all. They have really tried to get the mayor's attention, and the mayor's like, nah, son, I don't fit to have attention for you, which is good because you start baiting them along. You start building just something as small as getting an audience with a political figure. You could use that as a major story thing, right? Because what do players want? They want to get more and more advanced. They want the gold coins. They want the magic items. They want the levels. They want the experience, baby. Woo! But you can use something also as a reward. Something as simple as getting an audience with a political figure, because game after game after game after game after game, they've just been completely snubbed off. To the point where, you know, at best, he's treated them like Rudy Poo fans. Like, and that was at best. You know, oh, thank you, have a great day. One of them tried to get too close to him at a situation. But the men in good standing, they ain't trying to have that, because those men have ideas for themselves. So basically imagine this place that was just homesteaders, like a few small homesteaders out here in areas that are infested with trolls or occasional undead come wandering around, where goblin and hobgoblin bugbear tribes are known to be. Just a little bit south of lizard folk, of bullywugs, of the Yuan-Ti, and you really have a large possibility here. And there's what lurks under the ground as well, and you know what brigands and cutthroats may be through here. This long road that goes, you know, down to Kalasham, to to Waterdeep, to Neverwinter, and runs near Baldur's Gate. So there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of horrible things, a lot of sick things, a lot of twisted, freaky things to go on. It's an unsafe place. So you have this maelstrom of chaos. These people trying to live, trying to get something to eat. You understand what I'm saying? Trying to have some freedom. These are people that might not, for whatever reason, necessarily be able to cut it, or be able to cut it in a living that they think is better than this level of danger. in a Baldur's Gate, for example, which is not tremendously far away, but cities fill up, and people with ambition, with drive, are going to go off. So the game has a very strong Western feel. There's a bit of a tinge rock operousness to it. You know me, I like to bring the music in. I like to bring the grandiose spectacle and run things in a way that they can kind of capture them. Not just say epic and it has to be the Tarrasque running around with two bastard swords. Be like, yeah, I'm the Tarrasque. What it do? No, no, no. It doesn't need to be that way. But you can make even the smallest thing a big deal. That's what I'm saying. Like, you want to spotlight things. You want to build it up, right? So with the mayor example, building that up. So the players, they're starting to feel different ways. Like either I really want to meet the mayor, or like, man, that mayor. So that gives us some stuff. So the players, I think I vaguely mentioned. So Frank's playing, and he is playing like a human who grew up in basically practically complete destitution, working in a mine, no family, and he basically had to sort people out. They tried to desert on the mine, of course. As he becomes a player character, he deserts on the mine. Now, he's not a slave, but, if you know that old mine and life, that company store, that hand in hand, they kept you clutch the coast. So he barely, was able to do anything in his life, and he had extreme poverty. So he has a background in extreme poverty, but he's a miner, so he knows the mines, and work that in his story. I wanted players to be spotlighted, and I'm going to kind of go through I think I'll do another video, the mechanical differences. So we have this human fighter rogue who has, he uses he started with a sculling mace, and that was like it. He didn't have armor or anything. He just had a sculling mace for sculling a man's nugget. And I believe he has, the guys, I don't think anyone's ever figured it out, but they have a +2 dagger. That has a very minor property with it as well. And I think he has that, and he has a +1 long sword. Oh, how repugnant. Which is taken off of a Cyricist. And I think in terms of gear, that's all. He may have like a potion or something on him. I've only given. I don't give an enormous amount of treasure out. Just a little bit here and there. Next, we have, which we also many of you have seen since he was a young lad, my son, who now he's asleep. So I was trying to get him to come and do a little cameo, and he was like, oh, "I'm already asleep, man. Come on, man." So he was. I don't know, maybe we'll have him in the next one, but he is, as of his last doctor visit a few days ago, 5'10" at 13. So he's not the little tiny baby you might see in some of my original videos in the long ago. So he plays. He's playing a hobbit. I don't like to use the word halfling because it really isn't a good racial designator. Just something to avoid being sued for using the word hobbit. So in gaming, I don't see any reason that you would use hobbit or you would use halfling. I mean, do whatever you want. But if it wasn't for copyright situations, originally D&D was the Hobbit. They had to change that from the Tolkien estate. But I don't, because Tolkien's estate. They ain't gonna sue me. They don't know what's going on. So we use Hobbit. I'll put halfling in there or hin in there every great once in a while. But I really like to use peck. They start getting racist on the little fella there. You peck, you filthy little peck. And his deal, he came up with a pretty cool deal for his character. So he's been there for a long time. There's a small group, a small little village of hobbits. There's 25 of them that live kind of in the outskirts outskirts is weird to say. What I sort of, I'm kind of jumping all over the place because there's a lot to unpack. I got a lot going on here, a lot of really interesting stuff, really cool stuff. And I'm not going to give any spoilers because I don't know, he could have been trying to trick me and be listening at his door for exactly any information he can't get. I'm sure I'll watch this video if he doesn't. So anyway, so he basically was playing like this guy who would, like this rustic wizard who would go around and tell people, oh, he could do this for them, he could do that for them, he could bless their farms, he could do these sort of things. And he might take a little minor ability, like a prestidigitation, right? And or some other little cantrip and do something with it to sort of con these. And these are real kind of this homesteaders. This is very Western. This is very influenced by shows like Deadwood and that sort of thing, bringing that sort of aspect to Dungeons and Dragons, to fantasy gaming. And he is this sort of dirt worshipping heathen, and he's going around blessing people's farms, doing that to make people think, oh, look how nice this little fella is. So he's kind of worked one gimmick, and he has a decent charisma. I think he's 13. He's worked a good gimmick on these people to get them to be like, oh no, he's fine, he's good, we like him. He's maybe make a little coin that way, just a little bit, a little bit of goods, mostly trade goods from people. Maybe he gets a goat, probably likes goats, I don't know. Gremlins seem to anyway. So his character goes around. He talks to you, I worship Tyr. I'm gonna do these things for you. But his character actually, he's the bad one. He's the evil character. I don't use alignment in my game, but he probably would be in like neutral evil. I like to have one character that's sort of a dark character, not an antagonist, not a villain, protagonist, but darker, and he's really done a really good job with it. So it can create a bit more tension and drama in a game, where if you have players that don't just it can really work. So what he actually is playing is a necromancer who is a necromancer / priest of Merkel, who is, of course, the awesome one, the god of the dusk. So, Udala, Merkel. So that was really cool. He wanted to go that way. So he's basically working up, and we're going to use like a true necromancer type class for him, as he's I think just about up to 7th level. Which is no one's 7th level yet, but some of them are right on the cusp of that. This character is, of course, as a wizard cleric, you can imagine the attack bonus he has is very pathetic. So he is very bad in combat. He is splitting his classes. So his character is hands down the weakest character there. His hit points are terrible. His armor class is terrible. His ability to hit things is terrible. His number of spells that actually can really hit things is fairly bad. He has sleep. He got that one from the beginning. He learned that in an ancient tomb of Merkel, where he actually first became a priest of Merkel when he was merely a wandering acolyte of the Hobbit chieftain of their little Hobbit enclave. I had a really cool little picture for how the village actually looks, and a whole bunch of people for the Hobbits. We even have that man Uriah Faber as a Hobbit warrior. You know that man's a Hobbit. Come on, don't fuck around. So his character's kind of been a little down like in the fights, and it's slowly, with his next level, he's going to start to hit to where his character probably eventually becomes the most powerful character. Of course, being a dual class cleric mage can get insanely powerful at high levels. But of course, you have those growing pains of weak hit points, weak armor class, bad everything. The only thing is good saves. His good saves, he's 2 classes. Otherwise, his character is definitely at the very low power point, and his character is very adamantly anti-Cyric for obvious reasons, very adamantly anti-Mishra for obvious reasons, and we've seen some of the typical gods and tropes sort of turn on their head, because if you take something and you start twisting it a little bit. One of the issues with Dungeons and Dragons, one of the horrible things that they do with alignment, they start pigeoning things into this is the face locker room, this is the heel locker room. The faces fight the heels. Your character's the faces. You're going to fight the heels. But that's not always the way it has to be, right? Because Mishra would very clearly have evil followers, right? Or is she going to have good followers or neutral followers that are unbelievably insufferable pains in the ass? That you're like, you know what? Fuck those monsters you're going to fight. We're coming to your ass, Mishra, and we're going to do it with the justice that you've always deserved and will always receive. So that's something really just turning something up a degree and changing just a little over here. You could take one of these more goodly aligned gods, and we did a deal with Torm just now recently. I had to do a whole video on it, of the Iron Cathedral. I think we'll do a video because this is something you guys could steal from me and dump into any of your games, which would work really well. Like the play was one of the holy shit moments when I pulled it off, and it didn't take a whole a whole lot. There was nothing too ridiculous that had to be done to get it to a level where it had, you know, stopping power impact with some followers of Torm. And bringing them across as rather severe antagonists to the point the player characters nearly went to, stopping everything they were doing to go to really cause them issues in the future. Not that they couldn't stop them right then. There was way too many of them, about 100 of them. And it put us in a position where I was able to get sympathy on a assassin daughter of Baal who got killed by the followers of Torm, and the players were, they didn't see that coming when that happened. Of course, there's an enormous amount to recap. There's quite a few game sessions here in this game that I've been running in Forgotten Realms. So we have Ryan has, of course, the way to do magic. Like you don't get magic. Like nothing. You don't just get it. Like I might give you a dream sequence or a god event or something that just puts a spell in your head. But that you don't just get them. That's off of an interesting, unique thing that I do to add to the game, to add some flavor and funk and style to the game. It's not just nothing. So I think that's something that really adds to it. Now, my friend David, who I don't think he's ever been in a video. He's a real big guy. He's like 6'6". I call him a tree folk. Oh yeah, oh yeah, it was a tree ant. And he's one of those people that's like such a placid, gentle demeanor that you forget he's like the size of a house. And he's really 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 done a fantastic job. He's really kind of come into his own. I brought him in and a game back in the day, and then got him kind of working into gaming, and kind of showed him how to get the deal done. And this was the game where he came into his own. Like before that, it's like, okay, you're fine, you're okay, you're good, but he's fucking a rock star in this game. He is playing a dwarf who has some elemental fire blood, like some Esser bloods. He's sort of kind of like a genasi, fire genasi, but he's a dwarf. With some line to an Esser, like maybe a great grandfather, something like that. And he just works that in, like how the hair will flame or the eyes will flame or something. And he is a priest of Morden, the soul forger Morden. And he gets his dwarfiness on. He is a blacksmith. So we have one character that's more of a farmer, one character more of a miner, one character more of a blacksmith. He really works his gimmick. His character is a blacksmith, and I gave him an antagonist, of course. If you're going to run a blacksmith, you're in town, right? We're going to have another blacksmith. And you're a dwarf, so we have an elf named Franz Filigree. And I kind of give it just so that his character is like absurdly intelligent. I think he has like a 19 intelligence in the game. That's his highest stat. And he's got a 7 charisma. So he's trying to run things. He's a complete asshole. And part of the way he's an asshole is he just looks down on everyone like, I am so much smarter than you, you disgusting fucking idiots. How dare you not see how great and genius I am? And Franz Filigree's deal is like, all his shit looks really, 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 really intricate and ornate. But at least as David's character would tell you, it's crap. It's garbage. David's style is very utilitarian. It's very functional. It's not this beautiful elven style. So Franz Filigree, I've never even had him interact with David in the game. He'll just be in a crowd, or one of the other characters went over there and talked to him, just went to shop and was talking to him. And he's a moon elf, and he and his wife are there in the town, and we have this like huge row house style of business on two sides, and a very Deadwood-esque. Stole that from them. We get the thoroughfare, the main thoroughfare of the muck. One man might be get thrown from the wayfarer in and just get beaten on by another man out in the muck with the shit and the piss and the old rotten food come decomposing and the mud itself with the horse shit. So there's really, that sort of saloon Western ambiance, and all the businesses are right and right. They got the wheelwright and the dyer and a blacksmith are on either side here, and then on the other side of the street, like across from the Wayfair, is like the brothel And they have further down there is a big trading post, and then further up along the river there's what's called the Red Tent Bazaar, and it's basically like an out in the open sort of black market for this area. Did a lot of business off of having thieves that hit caravans on the route, and of course, if you're a sinister-minded follower of a king, a merchant, don't give a fuck if Bob got hit. Bob got hit. Well, I can get that item for 60% of what I was going to pay, 40%, 30% of what I would have to pay for it to put it on my cart, and I kick you an extra coin, and my cart doesn't get hit. And so I would even show like the merchants like how corrupt it is. That's business, man. Business gets slimy in the politics. It gets slimy. So there's a lot of slime there. And like the mayor kind of came in and he took all this whole place over, and owns the mines, and he owns the Southern Lumber Consortium, and brought that together and built up a fortune. He employs these goons. These are the men in good standing, and it's almost like in the player's mind, like, oh no, but they're men in good standing. They're the law, and of course they're the law. They're not good guys, and they kind of vary. Like there's one of them, there's three of them, right? And one of them is like. Even the players have bribed him. Like he gets bribed openly, even. But you're gonna pay. So I know I'm all over the place. I'm the stream of consciousness, man, baby, and that's a wonderful stream to sail down. One of the black flags of your mind. So that's Longe's character. He wears heavy armor. He wields a battle axe, and he has just found out that he has an ion stone. He had one, and he's gone to one of the characters, someone who has moved from Baldur's Gate to the town, and it's become a pretty big thing. The beautiful Enkindle, who I am, because I'm sure my players, at least someone who watches this, not getting any tips on who she may be. She definitely has a great potency of magical understanding, and they have seen she manifests some spell-like abilities or uses such things through magic items. So, but they've also seen her cast some minor magic as well. But it's been heavily shown that she probably has a lot more than that. Dave was able to get audience into her home, and the home itself is huge on the outside. On the inside, it's impossibly bigger, where it couldn't possibly have fit into the architectural confines of that space. And I went through explaining all of the different things that she had in there, the collections and the different items, and he really kind of dug that scene a lot, actually. It was a good scene. So he has an ion stone. He is not sure what type of ion stone it is. What I use is like a big piece of amber that's like delicately like carved in, and it has a dragonfly inside of it. So it's a preserved dragonfly inside of amber, and that is what his ion stone is. Ion stones are my favorite magic item. Like forever, they're just fucking awesome. Like you walk around, like we just had up here like a stone, and it's just magical as hell. It kind of gives off a little light. Do you know you're the man? You're like, yes, I'm the man. Like people aren't even gonna mess with you. You know, they're not interested in being destroyed by the likes of you, because you clearly are the man. You got floating magic stone around you, so people are gonna treat you a little bit differently. So I bring that kind of thing into roleplay. I bring that sort of thing. It always drove me nuts when game masters just, and I'll put it over. You got to put it over. You got to give the people what they want, and what they want is to get their cool shit put over. And it's so easy. I can give you things all day, but if I give you something and then instead of giving you something else, I put your thing over, I'll say I've hit the same deal, right? I've hit the same deal. So we can get the same out of nothing, and that's really the one of the major things in the art of storytelling. I'm very much a less is more. I don't like to have people bereft without magic items, without cool things. But I take the cool thing and I'm going to work it. I'm going to work it as a gimmick, because that's what it is, right? It's a gimmick, and you work that gimmick to raise the interest, in your players. To people go, oh damn, that was cool. I really liked it. That's really cool. So he has that. He has a suit of +1 chainmail, which he is trying to, like, he did a cool thing. He's trying to like figure out how to make magic items. Like that's his character's deal. he has a prestige class he wants to take where they like it's like a magic item, like a forge. What's it called, a forge master? The Races of Stone book, which I had bought him for his birthday, and eBay was nice enough to bring it slow as fuck, so it's still not here yet after his birthday, which is not what I like. But anyway, hopefully that'll arrive tomorrow. But then we have so he basically, like, if we were alignmenting the characters, Frank's character is probably chaotic neutral, Ryan's character is probably neutral evil, and David's character is probably lawful good. He is very hardworking. We've done these different orders, so we're working. I do a lot with the forge. Not like he's a blacksmith, but he never owned his forge. No, we doing things. He made this iron gate for Kendall. She paid him, and I worked a gimmick. I gave him this little tiny bag where he was like, because he's looking at it like it's gold or maybe even silver in the bag, and he can the dwarf and agrees with the dwarf mine. He's like, fuck. But he wants to get her business. So he's like, I guess I might have to get hit. I'm like, you don't even know if this is enough, and then he opens up and it's platinum, which there's a reason for that, right? So we're working a gimmick. Not, I don't know, we're working a gimmick, which I can't say here because they'll watch, and I don't want to give too many spoilers out because again we got to work it. That's one of the major things about Telegame Master, and it's probably very, very difficult to do. It's always such a glib thing to say, well, it's easy because it's easy for me because I know how to do it. But to get to the point where you know how to do that, because it's a lot of subtle intricacy, is important. So Bird Person, Austin, this is his first time really playing. He's played just a little bit, but I think it's more Jabronified. Getting into a deep, immersive role-playing game with certainly a lot of dark fantasy elements, which we do love those dark fantasy elements, don't we, Barbarian Horde? Woo! My God! So that's something that's really something I really like to work in. If you see the thing behind me, the blue thing here, that's a it's like a punching bag. I don't know what the exact name of it is, but it's like for my son does kickboxing and hapkido, and in fact he's almost a black belt, and both of them honestly. He's been doing that for 7 years. I've seen him knock quite a few kids out. Well, that man, just God, the spinning back fist that kid has is explosive. It's tough as fuck too, but yeah. So that's what that is. If anyone was trying to wonder, what the hell that thing behind my head was, and that is a painting. That is a painting that my late mother painted. So that's something that has sentimental value. There's another one in front of me, but you can't see that right now. But yeah, he was in there earlier tonight, hitting it with, I don't know what he was throwing, side kicks, round kicks, punching it, and it's just all of a sudden I'm back in my bedroom and this thing's just exploding with sound in here. Anyway, we have a ranger in Austin's character, Bird Person. Bird Person, and we were playing over at his house, and he has he calls his son, who is some type of parrot. It looks like a lovebird. He's not a lovebird. His name is Skittles. He's adorable. I'm not an animal guy, but I fucking love this. I love this bird. I go over there and just fuck around with him. And he lets him fly around the house. He'll just fly over, and he'll like land. But you gotta watch him because he's trying to start fucking with your glasses. But he likes me. He's always coming over and landing on me, and he'll like fly and like watch you, like fly. He'll literally fly into the room. Like, go, what you doing in here? Like if you walk in the kitchen or something like that, he's followed quite a few of us in there. Kind of circle around, kind of watch him land on you. So, Bird Person is a ranger. He's more of like an urban ranger. His father was a merchant, so he's a background of a merchant. His father was killed by the Onyx Fang Syndicate, who are this group with ties to followers of Cyric. Alm is heavily riddled with Cyricism, and it's his ties. Apparently now he's finding out, which was found out last game session, to the Yon T, which he doesn't. His character doesn't know anything about Yon T yet, but he will. And we have, all these various people where he's thinking it's done, like he's gotten revenge for his father's murder, and then we introduce his character's half sister, because his character's half elf and his father's human. This human girl comes in, and I'm playing the deal out in the Wayfarer, and she's over there, and she's just so much like anger. Like everything he's doing, I'm bringing anger out. But he's kind of like he doesn't he just falls right. He literally gets led by the nose into a trap. It was fantastic. He's a new player, so he's learning some things. His character's kind of shell shocked now. It's not the first time that's happened, so it was really great. So she shows up and she's like, "I have all this information. I know where these people are. Blah blah blah. And I've been finding them. That's how I found you." And then she starts like saying things like calling him knife ears and like being kind of racist against the half elf and not really appreciating him very much. And I even describe him. It's just things you see the hate in her eyes. Well, motherfucker, maybe you don't walk away with a stranger that leads you to somewhere else who has shown you some things like this, And I'm like, oh, and it goes well, because she's doing her best job to act. She's on the border of losing it because his character's like being like, his character can be kind of a dick, and he was being that, and it was making it very hard. Imagine if you're trying to set someone up and you want this person, you want to take him out. I'm not going to get into that because they might watch this and explain why, but I have a very cool whole storyline here, whole story arc really for Austin, and I try to build story arcs in different fashions for all sorts of different players. So Austin is playing a ranger. He's all the way through ranger. He fights with a sword breaker, a little dagger, like this is like a mingaush, and he has a masterwork short sword that it was like his father's. It's a masterwork elven short sword. It was his father's, and his father, of course, he's a half elf. Does like those elven fineries, though he was a human. So he has that weapon, and he has I think he has a masterwork composite longbow too, or no, composite shortbow, and he's acquired a +1 hand axe. We have 2 magic hand axes in the group, as we'll hear later. And they killed a dragon, a baby dragon, little tiny green dragon. It was like one of the first things we did in the game. I wanted to kick it off right. I wanted to digest a dragon. So what is it without fucking dragons? And so often there are dragons, and will there be other dragons? Or have there been other dragons? Who can say? But there was a very young green dragon, which I was sort of inspired by the artwork. Here in this book. And this book has some of the most evocative artwork to me, because this is, really, not exactly where I started, but close to the starting line, I guess technically started with first edition books. So this picture here, which you're not going to be able to see, but if you know it, you see that, the green dragon. That was always fascinating to me. This has always made my imagination just so stoked. I said, fuck it, why don't we have it? So this dragon was basically there. In fact, I made it just a little bit bigger than this one, because this one's fucking tiny. But I put it there. I think we had it about 12 foot long, and it was cool because it had like a little crown, but it was like on its forearm, and it had a treasure, but its treasure was mostly just fucking shit, like bits of quartz that were nice looking, polished stones. It even had like some feathers, and it had this group of kobolds that were basically worshiping it. I thought it was, if not a god, something divine, and it was like their king. Like I said, it had the crown on the forearm, and they defeated it. And I'm really going to the poison one. I made it so it could only breathe, every so often, and it only got to breathe once. But when it breathed out, I went through how horrible it was, like how all this shit was in their eyes, going into their mouth. If you've ever been around a place that's been poisoned, it's like a place that's been fumigated, right? That's basically what a green dragon does, and that's not like, oh, that's nothing. You need to get the fuck out of there. That poison like that doesn't just go away. That kind of poison is going to be in that area for hours, particularly if you're in an area that's stagnant, like a dungeon, So it was a very interesting scene where they fought with some kobolds and this dragon. It was a very, very tough fight for them. They just barely won. I thought maybe I was going to kill some of them. I was trying, but it didn't happen. I would definitely have been fine with having killed at least one of them in a fight like that. None of them have died, and I am not a slaughterhouse game master by any means. I don't like to have the players dying all the time, but I don't mind if one dies here or there. In moments that mean something. And what means more than your first encounter with a dragon? That's a pretty big deal. So I was like, yeah, no, we could definitely take the kid gloves off on this one. And if they die, they die. That's right. That's right. If you die, you die. What the hell are you talking about? You think you can just survive a dragon? You can't do it. Uh, but they did, and I built that up, and it's almost like people like slowly moving it off. But last game session, he finally got, and he had it sent away from the Gustavo, who was played. That's right, from Kalasham, Iranistan. I'm a real champion. I'm a real man. I'm not a piece of shit like you, but I respect your father. And I have Gustavo, who is played by Old Man Iron Sheik, and because I do a really good Iron Sheik, I do a fucking world class. I do a 10 out of 10 Iron Cheek. It's my best impersonation, so fucking I'm going to use it. And it's really funny because my son ended up hating Gustavo. There became a big thing between them, so where Gustavo was a bit of a clown. And this isn't young Iron Sheik. This is like a 60-year-old Iron Sheik. But he knew, so you have those real world tie-ins. Not like no one knows anything. Like Gustavo, being a trader, but remember the Traders Guild, Merchants Guild, knew the father of Renard, who is Austin's character, and so we had that kind of storyline there. But Gustavo was kind of trying to slide in, like he's slimy, but he has also a bit of a lovable and a very entertaining characteristic to the players. We're talking about the trading post, and that's where the trading post basically it's trying to get all the resources from the area, right? They want to get the horns, the furs, the teeth, the salted fish from the lake. They want to get as much ore and mined stuff as they can, but they're also bringing in certain manufactured goods. Kalasham rugs, bringing in uh, finished tools, all sorts of different stuff that they can get there. But the real design is more to bring in things and then just send it back as caravans come along and pick the stuff up. So, but at the same point, Austin's character, is like he's like a thief taker. Like that was his gimmick, like basically a bounty hunter. So Gustavo was sort of functioning as a in between there for a lot of them because a lot of the bounties are actually put up by the Merchants Guild because they're on thieves. So when you have a place that goes through different city states and different countries, well, who is actually a power that can do these things, that can sanction these things legally, that can have some method of actually being able to do something there? So I thought that would be something that would make a lot of sense, having a guild there. And the players they've enjoyed interacting with Gustavo. Austin, so we used this like high, maybe the top, maybe not the top, from these different cells, and I set the Onyx Fang Syndicate up like sleeper cells, where a lot of them don't even know it. Some of them are like Followers of Sirreg, some of them aren't, but the players don't know that. They're all like because they see something here and they just conflate it that it's all the same, right? Because I could be like a devil worshiper and a member of the mafia at the same time, right? You could be both of those things. They aren't mutually exclusive, but you might not necessarily want to tell either of the other sides, your business, right? You don't need to tell the mafia people, I actually worship the devil, or the devil worshippers, yeah, I remember the mafia. You just keep your fucking mouth shut and keep your business to yourself, right? But sometimes you get found out. So it provides a lot of interesting and a lot of misdirection. Where again, I'm not want to divulge. Not that I want to tell you guys, but players, and I'm sure at least some of them will watch this, maybe all of them, trying to secure any little nuggets of information they can. You sneaky little fucks. So Austin's character definitely has had probably in a lot of ways the character that if we're watching this, a lot of people will probably kind of relate to his character. He's half elf. He was up high. What I'm saying? He's this rich kid, and then he was kind of brought down low, and he's trying to get revenge. He's trying to do something in a world, and he's a lost, damaged, hurt sort of person. He's a new player, so then we have my nephew, my nephew's just a year and a couple months younger than me, so I taught him how to play. I think he's been playing with me since maybe he was like 9. I started running in when I was 10. Very fucking, very, 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 very light on rules because I just learned some rules. And then a video a long time ago, I learned some rules from a guy named David. What's his name? Hika? In like 5th grade or 6th grade, something like that. 5th grade, I think. 5th grade, yeah. And he and I, this guy Arlen Hake, and there might have been one other person that played with us at like recess or whatever the fuck we could really. And the game was really fun for what it was at the time. But my nephew, so I taught him, and he only really likes to play games that I'm running, and that's part of the reason that I put the deal together, because he was like, man, I really want to. And he hadn't gamed like in forever, like really, really, that he had done anything more than maybe even just a one shot. I think we did like one shot. Beyond that, I think it had probably been 15 years since he's gamed, something like that. Like an enormous amount of time, maybe even longer. No, maybe longer than that. Jesus, I think it has been longer than that. Maybe, I don't know, a long fucking time. And he works with me, and he started getting on me about running the game. I was like, I don't know if I can do that. And I haven't run a game in a while, so and he just kept kind of slowly chipping at me, and I was like, and he was kind of telling me what he wanted to do. So his character is basically like he's from Earth, and he was, I guess, in the D&D sense, plane shifted here, which is funny because his character's name is Sigilthorn, which Sigil in Planescape is. I just thought that was sort of funny. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know anything about Planescape. He is playing a barbarian, which is he's basically a Norseman and Berserker. And his character has freaked out a couple times, as would a Berserker. The barbarian hits that frenzy, And I gave him like a certain ability out of one of these books. For like he has the some second party D20 book that I bought him this like 20 fucking years ago, as like a Christmas present or something, and then he finally it might be the first one we ever had to use it, so it was pretty pumped to actually get to use it. We still had it, I've been reading it and come up with some extra ideas based off that. So he is. They call him so he's gained fame, right? And he was actually the one to kill the dragon. That got around, so people call him the Dragon Slayer. So they kind of like him, in that fame department. But he's also now started killing. He's like really just gone kind of berserk on some of these followers of Cyric and some of these other individuals have had. So he's become the butcher of Bone Rust. And we had this great scene where he just like freaks out. He's like, was gone berserk, right? He's running at somebody, and they busted in on these followers in masks. They were just like, hit boys. They were in there, hitting the fucking caravans and shit, just stealing shit, right? And they find where their lair is, and they get into it. It would take 20 minutes to explain the whole deal, but they basically get in there and putting it over, right? As he's running at this guy, instead of just being generic, whoever guy, he's like, he goes, Singlethorn! Like we said, I'm like, what the fuck? And Scott's like, in his head, he's like, and I'm like, that's a fucking, like, I was your biggest fan. He fucking love me. He's like, it's like Singlethorn the Dragon Slayer, and he's like, just kills him. The guy has no idea why he was killed. So, yeah, I mean, a berserking barbarian, and his character has this, probably the coolest magic item that I gave out, because really he was the first player. So when you're the first player in a game, and this is a great tactic for players, try to get to be the first player in your game master's game. So when they start laying everything out, putting everything together, you're not an afterthought, and they didn't start thinking about you on page 20 because they've already written the first 19 pages, right? And your character didn't even come along that idea until they were on page 20. If you can get if you can be a page 0 character, that's going to pay a lot for you if you give the game master an idea that's worth a damn. And he did. So I come up with this deal, like this North style like hand axe that has like this blue crystal like blade, and it's badass. On a roll of a natural 20, it does like an extra uh, uh, d6 of electric damage when it hits somebody. It's a +3 hand axe that does an extra 3 damage of electricity if it hits somebody on a 20, on top of all the other bonuses of 20. And it'll come back to the hand. It returns like a Mjolnir. So we want to put that over, and it kind of can glow heavier to produce like light, so it works kind of continual light as well. Although it can't like go completely off either, so it can kind of make it hard for him to be stealthy as well. Not that the barbarian screams and runs around and This is the Butcher of Bone Rust. Is necessarily the most stealthy character. So he's got that. And he ended up with like one of the horns of the dragon. So that's been made by the blacksmith into a masterwork dagger for him. So he's got the two of those things, and I think that's all he has. I want to say. I want to say he has something else really minor in terms of magic items, but just we don't put too much out. But that was like a story piece magic item for him, and it's an item that came out pretty good. And his character worships the gods of his world. He worships Odin and Loki, and things. I've done some dream sequences and some stuff, and to say, oh, is that man Odin coming to the Forgotten Realms? And the answer is obviously going to be yes. It's a fucking mission, right? So it provides an interesting kind of situation there. And I have all sorts of ties now. The characters are tied together now because we have a really good weave on the characters. The characters are there. A lot of stuff's really coming out good for them. So that's working really well. All right. Well, Barbarian Horde, as always, I am your main man.